Hello, I'm Sally Eley, and as Chris said earlier on, I head up the City and Guilds Foundation, which encompasses all of our social investment programmes, which includes the Princess Royal Training Awards, as well as the grants making bodies bursaries and volunteering programmes. So I'm delighted to be here with you this evening and to introduce my panel, who can all have some reflections on some of the things that Pim's talked about tonight. So we've heard it obviously from a very inspiring, almost a bit awesome perspective, but actually what goes on in the organisations that we're all part of today. So just to introduce you first to our panel, obviously you've met Chris, our Chief Exec from City and Guilds. And then we have Matt Pitt, who's Head of People Development at Veolia, who are about to get a Princess Royal Training Awards tomorrow for the first year, so congratulations to you. Then we have, sorry, the order is different now on the chairs, so this is testing me. I know. It's a pop-up conference, I said that to everyone. Anna Markland, who is the Ventures Manager at UnLtd, one of our Skills for Growth organisations that we fund. Then we have Sue Gammons from GSK, who is twice receiving the Princess Royal Training Award. Well, GSK are receiving it, aren't they, for the second time, so you have already received the award. And then we have Martin Jones, Chief Exec from UnLtd Care, also twice receiving the Princess Royal Training Award, and Martin is a commissioner on the awards. So I'm just going to go now straight into the panel just to ask some questions about the things we've heard of already. So Chris, if I can start with you. When we shift this, the dial from profit to purpose, how does an organisation start that task? What sort of things do you have to look at first?
So, I think it's a really interesting issue, and it's obviously this sort of narrative of organisations wanting to talk to purpose, and Pim made reference to it, but in reality, it's a bit of a foil for really actually still driving shareholder return, and it's trying to put a bit of a veneer on it. We're a lucky organisation, City and Guilds Group. As I said, we're 140 years old, we're a charity, we're fundamentally purpose-led. We're not for profit. However, the only way we sustain ourselves is by making a profit. We generate products and services, and we have to take those into the market and compete with a bunch of PLCs and other fairly aggressive organisations. So the challenge for us is, how do we really sort of balance those two things? And, for me, fundamentally in our organisation, it's about the way in which we've elevated purpose. I talked about it at the beginning. Everything that we do in the organisation is about helping people into jobs, helping them on the job, and helping them on to the next job. And the narrative that we create around that really reinforces across all of our organisation. And we're operating from Chicago right the way down to Wellington in New Zealand. And we have a variety of different businesses, but they're all fundamentally doing the same thing. And so we focus very, very hard on how we connect people to that purpose. I think then we also think quite hard about the activities that we can create that allow our staff to engage with our purpose beyond their normal day jobs. Whether you're a salesperson, a product development person, a finance person, you're working in HR or legal, you're still supporting our purpose. But we create other opportunities for our staff to be able to connect with what we do. So we have a bursary program where we're funding individuals who cannot access education training. Our staff can be interviewees on the panels, sort of supporting that program. We have some of them here tonight. We have ambassadors that go out and represent our organisation as part of the Princess Royal Training Award. And then we have a variety of volunteering programs that, again, are all connected and linked back to our purpose. So we've got narrative that we create, we've got opportunities of engagement, and then we've got some of the things that we've done structurally. We've created the foundation, which is a coherent, cohesive umbrella for all of our sort of social investment activities. And within that is a very robust evaluation framework that not only measures what we do in social investment terms, it also now is about measuring what we do in our commercial arena. So whether or not we're providing digital learning or a qualification or training an apprentice in nuclear engineering, which we do, the metric for us is, what is the impact of that work? And we're now beginning to look at three measures. How does everything we do create a skilled and productive society? How does everything we do strengthen an organization's capability to compete? And how does everything we do link towards creating secure and sustained employment? And if you think about those three things, they link back very clearly and neatly to that social purpose. So I think it's about clarity of purpose, the narrative, and the opportunities you create for people to engage with that purpose beyond their normal day job.
Thank you very much. Matt, if I move to you, I know that you work for a big organisation, huge in fact, and it's even in the UK, it's spread more than 500 locations,
That's
I believe.
correct, yeah.
So that's a lot of different disparate sites, isn't it, really?
It is.
So how do you make sure that your purpose is real to all of those staff when you're spread across so many sites?
And I will answer that question. I'm just going to break the status quo here. I'm just going to do some audience interaction. Who, apart from the three people that are working for Veolia tonight, who have texted me already to see if they can set their own pay rise for him, so thanks for that. Who has heard of Veolia other than seeing my face on the screen there? Who hasn't heard of Veolia, if you just want to put your... Actually, that's less than what we normally get. That's the scale of the challenge that we've got. I just want to give you the scale of the challenge of the sort of 500 sites. You can be on a composting site with one other person in a porter cabin with just a field of compost. That's what your job is. Or you could be a commercial driver, getting up at 3 a.m. on your own, coming to commercial businesses, picking up the waste on your own, finishing at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Or you could work in a shiny office in London in 210 in our headquarters. You can do that as well. And so that's the challenge of the problem we've got at Veolia. And Veolia, and we've got a lot of people that have heard of it, it's gone on quite a journey over the last 20 years. About 20 years ago, it wasn't called Veolia. It was in France. It's about 150 years old. And Veolia gave drinking water for the first time to a region in Lyon in 1854. So it's always had a really strong purpose of what it wants to do. Not so much in the UK. The UK, it was an environmental services business where we were sending everything to landfill. And we also had a transport organisation as well. Whereas now our purpose, and I'm going to read out comments from the chief executive to say, we want our staff to be carbon neutral. That's our purpose. We want to find solutions to recycle glass and plastics. We've got a big customer in Costa, the cups that we're drinking every day that can't go to recycling straightforward, and we've been working with them to understand how we can do that better. We don't export our problems. Some of our competitors just send it off to China and hope that they sort it out for us. We don't do that. And some of the solutions we want to do, we want clean vehicles. And one of the targets we've got is our City of Westminster contract, not far away from here. They're going to have vehicles that don't use petrol. They're going to be completely clean, so that there's going to be clean air for London. So these are some of the targets that we're working on, because we know our targets around circular economy. And what does that matter to that person that's on that composting facility that is just there with him and his mate? He doesn't see all of this. We have objective sheets that make sure that they're straightforward, that they're simple, that they're wrote in a language that everybody understands. They have a people development department, of which I'm a head of. There are 44 members of staff in that department. What's our role? Our role is to make sure that we challenge the cultures. We do challenge the status quo, and we almost have our own culture within our own department to make sure that if you see culture out there that isn't helpful to the objectives of the business, that you call it out. We've got behavioural change experts that make sure that we can challenge people's thinking. And the award that we're going to graciously pick up tomorrow is about a Respect at Work programme. It's not about a really sexy leadership programme. This is a programme that was delivered to 3,500 people because some of our staff, certainly in our municipal contracts, picking up waste from you and I from our doorstep, were getting abused from the general public, from you and I. And the reason why was just because they were in the way. They weren't doing anything, they were just in the way. And the people that were doing it predominantly towards them was working mothers, unfortunately. That's what the research told us. And it's because they were taking their child to school and our van was just in the way. And they're quite big vans. People have gone on that programme now and they've just learnt 3 tools to understand how to just diffuse a situation with the general public. And that's meant that reports have gone through, people have been prosecuted as a result, and then our employees on the ground know that we care about them because at our heart, we care about their welfare, we care about them every day, and we want to make sure that they're part of our future. It doesn't matter if you're a loader, and that's what you want to do for the rest of your life. To the managing director, our role in people development is that there's an offer available to you for everything, and we communicate that to them. 500 sites, as you say, is complicated. Our values are on every board, as well as our purpose, which has just been rewritten and is being distributed to all managers with a toolkit to understand how do you fit in the purpose. But the purpose is very simple. It's about saving the world.
Inspirational. Are there any challenges with when you acquire organisations? Because I know you do bring other organisations into your company who might obviously have different cultures and not be familiar with the values. What do you do then?
It's a great point. Yeah, we do. So we've organically grown. So we're 15,000 people in the UK. It's grown exponentially. And as I was saying to Chris then during the exercise that Pim set us, you can be wearing a jumper one day that says Viridor on it or something, or even a council that will have a completely different purpose to when you come and join us at Veolia. We've got a team of employee relations specialists that go out and do a TUPE exercise, and this isn't just about you're going to come to us, you're going to start work. I remember doing it for myself when I was in the HR team for that composting facility, explaining the values of the business, explaining what we do, explaining how they're going to fit into the circular economy, explaining how they're part of the business fits in, not just about you're here, thankfully you're going to be able to make us more profitable. It's about how you fit in, why we purchased you in the first place, that it forms part of our offer, and how you're going to help us towards that circular economy. So that's how we do it.
Great, thank you. Anna, if I can move round to you now, in terms of if we look at the importance of people having purpose, individuals, from the outset, really. I know that UnLtd works with a lot of startups and very small organisations. How important is it, do you think, for people to have that sense of purpose from the outset?
Yeah, thank you. So UnLtd, just for those who don't know, are a foundation that fund and support social purpose businesses. And that can be right from the very kind of early idea stage right to some people that maybe are shifting and wanting to get into social purpose into their business. So I'd say that we work naturally with the rebels that are out there in the world, because one of the things that we're doing with City and Guilds is around access to employment. So there are already people that are challenging the status quo. They're saying disabled people should be engaged in the workforce. They're saying ex-offenders need to have employment, and that's their way to not offending anymore. So I think we've already kind of found people that would naturally fit with what you were saying earlier. But that means that what we're helping them with sometimes is finding small teams, so volunteers, advisors, making their first hire, building their first teams, or helping them with existing teams to kind of get that sense of purpose. So we worked with somebody called Redemption Roasters. They're a coffee company, and they roast their coffee in Aylesbury Young Offenders Prison. So they set up as a coffee company, that's their background, and what we were helping them with is actually getting their staff to be excited by the purpose, which they saw as almost a kind of corporate USP. But how do they make their staff feel that actually this was something that was really unique to them? So what does that look like? How are we actually doing that? A lot of the people that we work with, they know they can't compete on pay and they can't compete on perks. So what they compete on is they compete on purpose. And that means that they can find talent that otherwise they wouldn't be able to attract. And they can also retain that talent for a lot longer, because people are prepared to work much harder for them. They're prepared to take a pay cut. They're prepared to stay with them much longer to introduce them to their networks, because they're proud that they work in that company. So we've got a company called Aspirations. They've got their head of sales who took a significant pay cut because Aspirations support autistic people into employment. Their new sales director has autism himself, so he felt that really aligned, that they really understood him as a person, and he really felt that their mission of helping autistic candidates into the workplace was something he wanted to be a part of. So how can you actually, as a startup, recruit and find people that are right for you? And I think, what I took away from the Corporate Rebels talk was it has to take a lot of trust to allow people to work in that way. And one of the ways you build that trust is by hiring people that you know You don't care about the how they do their job, and often you're doing all the things. You're CEO and you're the bin man. So if you're not kind of recruiting for the how, then you're recruiting for the why. Why are people going to be coming to work, showing up for work, and doing their best for you? So we have actually helped people to set their vision, often their very grand vision about all disabled candidates or closing the disability employment gap. Then we've asked them, would you actually fire if people weren't living this value? Because that's what it means when you hire for purpose. You actually have to say, if people don't fit with our purpose, they can't work in an organisation. We have to then make them walk the walk. So we've got a company called Even Break. They're a disabled jobs candidate board, a jobs board for disabled candidates. They have to then be very flexible for their staff because that's a value that they share, and that's sometimes challenging. So I know there are a few people that are starting out and they're small businesses. So, how you say hire for kind of cultural fit and then train for skills. What if you need the skills because you're a small business and you need somebody who's a sales manager, you need somebody who has finance skills? It's really difficult to then say, well, I'm going to let go of a really good candidate because they don't fit our culture. So we have to kind of help people actually balance that. And how do you balance that they fit with our culture? Sometimes there's a byword for they think like us, which is not what we want, and people want to have diversity in thought. So it's tricky, but what it can lead to is loyal talent, an actual USP for your company, and an ability to deliver above and beyond what other people can in your industry.
Thank you. Now, we've heard from Pim about the importance of thriving organisations having a diverse mix of skills, albeit self-selected, which is great, I think, to be able to work out who is it, who's good at what, and then how to mould the role around that rather than the other way around. So in GSK, how do you link the GSK purpose to the development programmes that you have going on, particularly things like your program that you got the award for before, Accelerating Difference with women. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll just say a little bit about what GSK is in case you've got no idea. So GSK, it's a healthcare company, so we manufacture medicines, vaccines, and we also have a lot of over-the-counter and consumer healthcare products, including things like toothpaste, a lot of household brands. So you'll be familiar with a lot of our brands. So it's a large organisation, 100,000 employees spread worldwide across over 100 different countries. So one of the things that we've done, and you can see, I actually hadn't realised, but it actually says on the screen up there what our purpose is, and that's to help people do more, feel better, and live longer. And one of the things we've been talking about in GSK more recently is what does it mean to be a modern employer? And we've been talking about this thing of modern employer. What does that actually mean for us? And recognising that the world of work has changed, and we need to adapt with that. And we need to think about what does that mean for our employees. And actually, what we realise is that our mission to do more, feel better, live longer starts with us as employees. That if we can't do that within our own organisation, there's no hope of us doing it for our patients and for our customers. So that's our starting point. And as part of that, there are a number of different elements of that we think about, and there are 3 key elements, and that is be you. So that's about how do I be myself? How do I bring all of myself to work and use the skills and the natural talents that I have? How can I feel good? So that's about how can I feel healthy and resilient, and how can I feel good at work? And if that means I need to go, I really want to go out for a run sometime during the day, then I can go and do that. And also keep growing, and this is where we think about development and training, and how do we support people to continuously really evolve and continuously learn and grow and develop their skills to keep them relevant for the current work that needs to be done in not just in the organisation, but just how the world of work has changed. So that's a sort of broader strategy and that we have within the organisation. And a part of that, I think linked to that, we've also got a very strong focus on how do we become more inclusive and embrace diversity within the organisation, which I know a lot of organisations, large organisations, are looking at. As part of that, we have a programme called Accelerating Difference, which is designed to support more women moving into senior leadership roles. And what we're aiming for is to get much more gender balance. We're actually not doing too badly compared to many organisations. But we have a target at a very senior level to have 37% of roles held by women by the year 2022, so not very far away. We're not too far off that target, so we're doing pretty well. So we have this programme, Accelerating Difference, and one of the key things that we want to do, very much linking with this modern employer strategy and agenda that we have in the organisation, is to help women to think about what is their purpose and what are their strengths, what are their talents, and who are they naturally as leaders. So we're not teaching people these are leadership qualities that you need and this is what you need to do to become like a stereotype leader, but we're helping women to find who are they authentically as leaders, which may be very different to a more traditional masculine style leadership. So that this is very much a sort of core theme of the programme. Who are they? And through that, they're not only they're identifying their strengths and talents, but also helping them to think about what is their purpose. Who are they as leaders? Who do they want to be as leaders? What do they want to stand for as leaders? What's their purpose more generally in life, and how does that fit within the world of GSK? And some, maybe in some cases it doesn't, and that's also okay to help them to identify that and find what is really important for them. Mostly, to be honest, they do find that, and we have some really good impact data that shows very high retention rates and levels of promotion from people who've been on the programme. But yeah, it's one of the key pieces of feedback that we get from people who've been on the Accelerating Difference programme, is that helping them to get a much better sense of their purpose and who they want to be as leaders. It actually helps them to be more confident as leaders, and through that they perform better, and they're then much more likely to be promoted into roles, into more senior leadership roles.
It strikes me that connecting to the individual is really key there then, that actually homing in on that real personal, as you said, what is it, trying to pull out from an individual, what is your purpose? That's quite an interesting dimension, I think, in it all.
It is, and I think it links to what we were hearing about before about employee engagement. If people really feel a personal connection to a purpose and feel they really understand what they're good at, what they enjoy doing, and they can be doing work that's aligned with that, then they're much more likely to be engaged in the work that they're doing, and that's what we're looking for.
Thank you. So Martin, if I can finish with you then, I know that you like to do things differently at UnLtd. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you've done and then the impact that's made,
Okay, so just probably picking up on what Matt did before. Who's heard of UnLtd Senior Care in the audience? Okay. Very, very few of you. So UnLtd Senior Care, we are the largest provider of home care globally and one of the largest providers of home care in the UK. So we provide care to enable older people to stay in their own home for as long as they possibly can. And our mission, so rather than our purpose, our mission is to become the UK's most admired care company through changing the face of ageing. And changing the face of ageing is our mission throughout the world. We're in 12 countries. We employ over 120,000 caregivers around the world. In the UK, we employ over 11,000 caregivers and about another 150 central office teams. We're a franchise-led business in terms, so keeping it local, so the decision maker is very much local across the 211 offices. And I think that's what makes us different. So we've won the Queen's Award. We won the Queen's Award for Innovation. Now, we won the Queen's Award for Innovation not because it was for anything we did with tech. It was really about putting the client at the heart of every single thing we did. Now, to change the face of ageing, we need to change the face of caregiving as well. We need to raise the profile of what a carer, or we call them a caregiver, is perceived in the UK. So that we really need to focus on that person and how they engage with our clients. And that's what makes us quite unique. So in terms of the innovation, that's 10,000 lone workers. in people's houses doing different tasks. That's where the mission is absolutely key critical. You mentioned a great point before in terms of training for skills. You can't train what's in the heart. What we do is just too important to fail because you're looking after older people. It's just too critical. You can train the skills in terms of what personal care and other things need to happen, but it's what's absolutely in the heart, the culture, the values, and it's the values bit. Don't get culture and values mixed up. It's actually very, very different. Culture will evolve as the strategy will evolve, but the values are the heart of the organisation, and that's what makes us very, very different. And actually putting the caregiver and the client, we match our caregivers and clients. So actually you've got that bond, we match them in common interests. So you have that, that uniqueness. So again, the caregivers given the flexibility work when they want to work to match them with the client as well. So it's a very, very different business model in terms of what we try to do. Sorry,
imagine that it's even more challenging though when it's a franchise model. So is there anything, do you find that at all?
Well, not really, because all of our business owners are absolutely mad. They've absolutely mad. They bought a business to make a difference. They've all been in the corporate world. They've all done appraisals and they've all done business plans and corporate strategies to death. But they're absolutely fed up to the back teeth of it. They're fed up of process. They're fed up of regulation. They're fed up of timelines. They're fed up of going to meeting after meeting after meeting. But what they have learned over that time is a fantastic wealth of job skills and experience, and they want to put it to some good use. So most, if not all, of our franchise owners have had a poor experience of care from a loved one. I came to this sector looking after my dad, being cared for my dad. You've got to appreciate what that's like. So they learn that from the corporate life, but then they use it to actually make a difference. And there's a lot of people out there that are getting to a point, and you made some great points before, in terms of, profit's a reward for what you do. It's not the reason for doing it. And you speak to any business that's really successful, whether it be young, not the big boys, just in terms of the younger business, the SMEs, it's absolutely, they've got that at the heart. And that's what makes them very, very different to actually some of the big corporates, because they're not losing sense of why they're there. So we don't need our mission changing the face of aging necessarily on a wall. We don't need it on a book. It's just something we talk about. And it's if you actually recruit the people and attract those type of people that actually believe in the culture and values and what you stand for, it becomes a lot easier. And to go back what you're just saying there, Sue, in terms of people make a decision if that culture's not right for them, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But they tend to make that decision for themselves, but it's being strong. If they don't fit with your culture and values, then that's where your strength has to come in to make those decisions.
Thank you. Well, thank you to all of you. I'm now going to open it up to the rest of you to see if there's any questions or indeed just observations, comments from your own organisations. If you can raise your hand, we'll bring round one of these rather heavy mics. They are. Yes, you can. Break away.
Okay, steal a microphone. I imagine that tonight may have been a bit daunting for everyone. It certainly was for me around, oh man, there's so much more we could do. There's so many things to think about. So I wondered if any panel members, and I'm happy to share, would be brave enough to say when you've tried to embed purpose in your organisation, it hasn't quite worked as planned, or if you've got feedback from employees where it's like it's not quite landed, and what you did about that.
I can go on it. One of the things we tried to do, and I was going to say it in my piece, was we had this idea 3 years ago, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, where we would train everybody on what value proposition meant for Veolia, that if you came from the water business, because we're water, waste and energy, it was this sort of thing where we'd magically train you and then you'd be a water person, but you'd know how to sell the waste and energy after this. And the bit was about one Veolia, that was it. So it had an amazing sort of, at its heart, it was a great idea. It was about, we've come from 3 disparate specialisms, skills, etc. Let's get them all together and let's try and get people to sell it. And it didn't work because, well, it didn't work for 1,000 reasons, but it didn't work because People didn't understand why they were doing it. People didn't understand. They got given all of these toolkits. The trainer that did it, who I'm still in contact with, he didn't get too many bruises from it, just a few. But he tried to get it over. And even our internal trainers did it. And they tried to fight with the status quo. So I don't really know. I'm talking about mindsets in one part of the session, and then I don't really know what the afternoon bit is, because it's one of those things where too many cooks almost spoil it, and one of the reasons why this program we've won an award for is that it was really clear what the problem we were trying to solve was, and we went about solving that problem. That was one of the things I think that we've learned from, and we wouldn't do it again.
Can I come in from a slightly different angle? So it's not really how you train it, but how you keep it as you grow, and how you scale the mission and the purpose. That's a really difficult one as well, in the sense of, our business started 25 years ago, in the States. It's now come to the UK. When I joined the business, we had 20 offices. We now go, as I say, over 200. How do you keep that purpose and that element of what you actually stand for that's true to your heart? And for us, it's changed in the face of aging. How do you scale that up as your businesses get bigger? How do your businesses get more remote? How do you get from 1,000 employees to 10,000 employees to 20, and et cetera, et cetera? And it's absolutely been that key laser sharp focus and really exhibiting it, not from me, because my job's no more important than anybody else, certainly no more important than caregivers, but it's actually everybody within the organisation exhibiting that values and those mission for us, why we do what we do, day in, day out, without exception. My job as a CEO, the most difficult job I've got, is to keep things simple. But we've got to keep the mission at what we're hard to what we do. And as you scale that becomes more difficult. Only if you take the wrong people on. And that's where you recruit on culture and values. What you were saying before, it's 100% right. Don't recruit on job skills.
I'd build actually on both those points. We're an organisation, I said earlier, 140 years old. The Sitting Gills brand is something that's synonymous with qualifications, technical vocational education. Now, for a whole variety of reasons, government policy, turmoil and churn of apprenticeships and funding, as everyone here knows, we've had to think quite hard about how we grow and expand and diversify the organisation. So we've bought businesses, and we've bought businesses that are in digital learning technologies. We've bought businesses in America and Australia. And of course, one of the things I've always done when we bought the business is go out and talk about our purpose. And you think that some guy or girl in Australia or America is going to go, oh yeah, I get it, not having any real context for what the organisation really is. And I think the thing that I've recognised that we have to do a much better job at, I have to do a much better job at, is really, really talking about purpose and bringing this narrative back about the impact that we have, and helping people understand that even though you might not be part of the group that's here in London and has been part of the DNA and fabric of skills education in the UK, that actually you might be working with Facebook in America or Qantas in Australia, doing something quite different to what the majority of our business does here in London. But fundamentally, you're still helping secure employment, strengthen an organisation, and create a skilled and productive society. And so I've recognised it's the narrative, and you have to be quite relentless, I think, around the narrative. And I've been out on the front foot, and then I've stepped back and hoped others will do that, and others have. But you just have to keep talking to the narrative, to the purpose of reinforcing where and how it's working. And that can be hard to do because it's easy to get lost into value propositions and competitive tactics and strategy and business plans and 3-year sort of financial projections. And my takeaway really is that really doesn't matter. As the chief executive, I need to be prepared to say to our organisation, you know what, that doesn't matter. Is what you've done today help someone get a job? Have you helped create a skilled and productive society? Have you strengthened an organisation? And if any member of our staff can say yes to that, then frankly, I should be leaving the office happy that we're an organisation doing what we said we'd do. And the profits, as a consequence, really should flow from that, and the experience would suggest that they will.
Thank you. Right, I'm conscious of time, so I don't want to hold you up from your drinks, and so I suggest actually, especially because the way this room's set out, it's actually much easier to just carry on chatting afterwards. So, but before we go, first of all, I'd like to thank the panel and to Pim for that fascinating talk at the beginning. Thank you very much. And just before we have the drinks, I'd like to show a very short video which just brings HomeInstead's purpose to life for you. We did it recently just about what they do, and they're connected to their Princess Royal Training Awards. So please enjoy this, and then do go off and enjoy the drinks. Thank you very much.
At HomeIntd, we look after older adults in their own homes. Generally, most of our clients are over 65, and they have a range of different conditions such as Alzheimer's, dementia, right up to chronic and terminal conditions where they might be end of life.
We're going to see Sylvia. She's a lovely lady, and she's been with HomeIntd for just over 10 years. What motivated me to become a caregiver was being at home as a single parent. I found there was a gap when my youngest child went to school, so I wanted to fill that hole. So I decided that caring was something that I wanted to look into. Good morning, Sylvia. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Are you good?
We deliver training from the very start of a caregiver's journey with us. So they attend a training which is run over 5 days, and that covers everything they need to know really about the job, about their role and responsibilities. And following on from that, we offer lots of other training opportunities. So for example, we have some accredited courses with City and Guilds, so the caregiver may want to go on and learn more about dementia. So we have that accredited course, or end-of-life care.
So you came on Tuesday morning, didn't you?
I came on Tuesday morning.
Did I tell you? I told you, didn't I? We're going to
That's right, you did, yeah. Did you eat your sweets?
I didn't like them.
Oh, didn't you? I didn't know a lot about dementia before I started as a caregiver, and I knew next to nothing about providing end-of-life care or palliative care. The training has definitely had an effect on my confidence. I'm definitely more confident in my role as caregiver now.
It was my stepdaughter who introduced HomeIntd into our lives, that is my wife and myself. My wife being a sufferer from vascular dementia. HomeIntd initially came for 3 hours a week, developing into something like 21 hours a week. The ladies that come are gentle, caring. When they called, it brought a little buzz of light into an otherwise long day. So it brought life into the house.
You have to be very compassionate, very understanding. Yeah, and a need a want to help people, to look after people, and to help them get the best quality of life that they can possibly have.
Being awarded the Princess Royal Training Award really reflects the quality of the training, and for us that work within the learning and development world, that's really, really important to us. To recognise that, yes, we do provide very good training.
One thing that the Princess Training Award has helped support us is our mission of changing the face of ageing, and both the end-of-life and dementia training gives that confidence to the caregivers, and it's like a ripple effect with families and friends really making a difference, and that for us helps support our mission of what we're trying to do is help people stay at home as long as they can and as happy they can be, and I think both the training programmes really help support us do that.
We receive continuous feedback about how well cared for our clients are. Families are often so grateful, and they're often unaware that there's a service out there which can care for people in such a way so they can get back to being a family member and we can look after the care side of things.
You know, you go home at the end of the day and you know that you've done something that has made somebody else feel really good, or you've helped in a certain way. And you're not just there for the client, you're there for the families as well and the friends. So yeah, it's very rewarding. I think it's a great job. I love it.